But moving on to the final segment, we're going to switch gears here to the world of college football, and I'll be sharing my college football second round playoff predictions. So we're in the second round of the college football playoffs. I'll be covering all 4 games that will be going on in the second round of the college football playoffs. So first game that is slated for the second round is Penn State versus Boise State. Now, this game, as I record this segment, will be happening in the next few hours between Penn State and Boise State. Boise State is coming off their bye week. They got a bye week in the first round after winning the Mountain West Championship Conference, the Mountain West Championship game, and then Penn State is coming in after their first round dominating performance against SMU, heading into this game. So they're riding a wave of momentum. So these are the following blueprints that I have for these teams to follow if they want to walk out and head into the next round with a victory. Starting off with Boise State. Boise State's got to run the football with Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty is the best running back in the country today, was in the finalist for winning the Heisman Award this year. It was a debate of who should have won it between Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty, but Ashton Jeanty has carried Boise State, a team that nobody thought would make the college football playoffs, all the way to the point where they got a bye week and then the 3rd seed in the college football playoffs. That's how much Ashton Jeanty has carried this Boise State team. And he has the chance to breaking the all-time rushing record in the college football season, breaking Barry Sanders' record in this college football game. So I think the key is to run the football with Ashton Jeanty, control the pace of the game, running the football to set up the pass and passing scenarios. And that brings me to the last blueprint. Boise State's offensive line has to play elite pass blocking and run blocking. They got to win the battle in the trenches against Penn State's defensive line, which is a tall task to ask for. But Penn State has a very dangerous pass rush. Boise State has to do their job pass blocking and run blocking to clear holes for Ashton Jeanty, run blocking, and then pass blocking. So you have Maddox Mason. You give your quarterback Maddox Mason time in the pocket to throw the ball and get the offense moving down the field. So those are the key ingredients for Boise State to defeat Penn State in this game. Now, next would be Penn State. Now, they got to let their quarterback Drew Aller cook. Drew Aller is I think he's very underrated, but he hasn't shown it yet. And I think this is going to be his game to show it. Boise State's secondary has been very suspect in games where they play big-time competition. I'm talking about when they played Oregon, when Dillian Gabriel had their way against their secondary. They looked very suspect and they got exposed. They also got exposed against Oregon State's passing attack as well. So their secondary doesn't look the best when they have to play much better competition, and they're going to be playing Penn State. So I think this is Drew Aller's game to have a really breakout game. And last but not least, they got to feed the ball to Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren is the best tight end in the country today in college football. Tyler Warren, he's one of those throwback tight ends where you just put him anywhere. I mean, you can line him, you can put him in motion, you can put him anywhere on the line of scrimmage, line him up as a wide receiver if you want. He's very effective pass blocking, run blocking. He can obviously create magic with the ball in his hands in open space. So I definitely believe if Penn State follows that game plan, they have a good chance of beating Boise State, which makes me believe that they will beat Boise State based on what I said. So I'm going to go with Penn State to defeat Boise State. I just think that I think that Penn State's front seven is going to be too much for Boise State's offensive line. And I think their front seven will limit Ashton Jeanty in making big plays in the backfield. They have a ferocious pass rush that's going to get home to the quarterback as well. And Maddox Mason could be in a world of trouble on the defensive side of the ball. I think Drew Aller, against this suspect Boise State secondary, is going to have one of the best games of his college football career. Tyler Warren getting the ball, and they have some great running backs that could feed the ball as well. I think Penn State's just going to be too much and a much more physical team. And they're going to cruise to a second round victory against Boise State. Now, next game you have is Texas versus Arizona State. Now, Arizona State is coming off a bye after winning the Big 12 championship a few weeks ago. And Texas is coming in after their impressive first-round victory against Clemson, their 2-possession victory that they had against Clemson. So the blueprints of winning this game, Arizona State's got to feed Cam Skattebo the ball. Cam Skattebo is one of the best running backs in the country. And if it wasn't for Ashton Jeanty, it would be a strong conversation that Cam Skattebo is the best running back in the country. I mean, he's a big physical running back, runs hard downhill, very physical, a big guy that's really hard to bring down and tackle when he gets the ball in his hands. Texas has to have to do a really good job. If the Texas wants to win this game, they got to do a good job. But for Arizona State, I think it's best to run the ball with Cam Skattebo and get the offense going, run the offense through him in this ball game. Now, last but not least, Sam Leavitt, the quarterback for Arizona State, he's got to deliver in these big-time moments. Now, yes, it's nice to have Cam Skattebo in the backfield for you, but what if Texas gets up by 2 possessions? You can't run the ball at that point. You got to air it out to get your offense back in the game. So Sam Leavitt, I think he's got to do a good job passing the ball. And I think if he can do a good job passing the ball, I could really set up shop for Arizona to pull off a huge upset against Texas in the second round. Now, for Texas, they got to shut down Cam Skattebo. Now, like I just said, Cam Skattebo is hard to bring down, but this is where the firepower meets firepower in this game, because Texas has a phenomenal front seven, one of the best front sevens in football. I'm talking about the interior on the defensive line, the interior and the linebackers. They got an incredible front seven. I think they're going to load the box quite often because Cam Skattebo is going to get a lot of looks, a lot of carries in this game. So I expect Texas to load the box and shut down the run in these situations to make them beat them in the passing game. And last but not least, Texas has to run the football. Now, Texas had a lot of success running the football against Clemson. They had 292 rushing yards against Clemson, and their offensive line has been great run blocking all year long in college football. They got a dynamic set of running backs in the backfield. So with that being said, give me Texas to defeat Arizona State. I just don't see this upset happening. I just think that Texas, their offensive line, defensive line is going to win the battle in the trenches against Arizona State. Their front seven, with the interior of their defensive line and their linebackers, I think they're going to do a good job of shutting down Cam Skattebo and forcing Arizona State to beat them in the passing department, which I don't see happening. And I think the Texas is going to play a similar game of what they did against Clemson, playing conservative on the offense side of the ball, running the ball for Quinn Ewers not to really do much at the quarterback position. And I do believe they're going to carry their momentum, especially their momentum that they had running the ball that they had against Clemson, into the victory against Arizona State. Now, next game, I think this is going to be the best game of the second round, is the rematch between Oregon and Ohio State. Now, Oregon is coming off their bye week after winning the Big Ten championship against Penn State, and Ohio State is riding a wave of momentum after picking up their first round victory against Tennessee. So this is a rematch from what we saw in the beginning part of the college football season. Oregon defeated Ohio State by a score of 32-31. Now, the blueprints for the rematch with Oregon, they got to lean on their veteran quarterback, Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel has to show up to play. He was a Final Four Heisman Trophy finalist this year, has had a tremendous senior year with Oregon. I think he's a big reason why Oregon is the only undefeated team in the country in the college football playoffs. It's due to his big senior year that he had with Oregon, transferred from Oklahoma to Oregon, and it's not looked back since. I think Oregon's got to have to lean on Dillon Gabriel to show up in big-time moments, perform in clutch situations to help them defeat Ohio State. And he's got to make plays with his arm. He's got to make plays with his leg. And if he could do that, Oregon has a good chance of defeating Ohio State in the rematch. And last but not least, Oregon's got to get the defensive stops. Now, what makes Oregon such a dynamic team, and the reason why they're undefeated, is because they're balanced on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. And when you're balanced on both sides of the ball, that leads to you being a championship contender, which Oregon is as the number 1 seed in the playoffs. So they're balanced on both sides of the ball. I think they got to get stops against Ohio State. Their pass rush has to get home to Ohio State's offensive line that has looked shaky at times in the season. But if they could do that, get the defensive stops, get some 3-and-outs, with Oregon cashing in on opportunities to score points, I think that puts Oregon in the position to win this ball game against Ohio State. Now, for Ohio State, I think the pass rush has to get home to Dillon Gabriel. Now, it's debatable who has the better pass rush between Ohio State and Oregon heading into this game, but I think Ohio State has the better pass rush. Now, both teams have been great pass rushing units in the country, but I'm going to lean on Ohio State more in this game. I think the key for Ohio State to have the advantage on the defensive side of the ball will the pass rush getting home to Dillon Gabriel, and the pass rush creating pressure, disrupting havoc, and the pass rush for Dillon Gabriel to be flustered in the pocket for this game. Now, last but not least, Ohio State's got to air it out with Will Howard. Now, in the first game against Oregon, Will Howard had one hell of a game and losing effort. He had 326 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. And I think the key ingredient for Chip Kelly to get his guys going, being the play caller for Ohio State, is going to have to get the passing game going and take it from there in this ball game. Will Howard had a pretty good game against Tennessee as well, had over 300 passing yards as well, got his pass catchers like Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka going in the passing game as well. So I think the key ingredient for them winning this game is going to be having to air it out with Will Howard and company and get the pass catchers going. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Ohio State to defeat Oregon. I think this is going to shake up the college football bracket for the playoffs, but I think Ohio State's going to get the better of Oregon in the rematch here. I really, really loved what I saw from Ohio State in the first round against Tennessee, how they dismantled and dominated them in the first round, which gives me confidence that the offensive line that Ohio State has could possibly win the battle against Oregon's defensive pass rush. I think the pass blocking is going to be very important for Ohio State's offensive line against Oregon's pass rush. And I do believe the game could come down to the final possessions like it did in the first game. And I lean on Will Howard dueling it out against Dillon Gabriel, with Will Howard gaining confidence as the season goes on. Just had 300 plus passing yards against Tennessee and also had 326 passing yards the first time they played Oregon. So I do believe that Will Howard's going to air it out, get his pass catchers like Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka going in this game. And I think they're going to have a really successful game plan to defeat Oregon and move on to the third round of the college football playoffs. So big upset here. Not really upset, but the first upset I think we'll see in the playoffs will happen with Ohio State beating Oregon. Now, the fourth and final game is Georgia playing Notre Dame. Now, Georgia is coming off of their bye week after they won the SEC championship game against Texas, and Notre Dame had a dominating win against Indiana in the first round. So the blueprints of winning this game, starting off with Notre Dame, they got to run the football. I mean, Notre Dame, that's their bread and butter, and the reason why they've been so effective on the offensive side of the ball this year has been running the ball. I mean, they have the best 1-2 punch at the running back position in the country in Jeremiah Love and Jeraden Price, I should say. To mix in with the dual threat quarterback of Riley Leonard, the transfer from Duke that has done a tremendous job at the helm at the starting quarterback position from Notre Dame. Has had I believe he's had 15 to 16 rushing touchdowns this year. So, and they also had a lot of success in the first round when they ran the ball for 193 rushing yards against Indiana. They ran the ball down their throat, controlled the tempo of the game. I think that's going to be a key ingredient for them to beat Georgia, a really physical and tough team. And last but not least, I think Notre Dame's got to get home to Gunnar Stockton. Now, Gunnar Stockton, this is a big-time moment for him. Backup quarterback for Georgia. This is his first official start in his college football career because Carson Beck is still injured and will not be able to go for this second round, for the playoffs. So the Gunnar Stockton, how far Georgia gets, they have to ride it out with their backup quarterback. But even though Gunnar Stockton was good enough to win the SEC championship against Texas, he's still unproven of what he can really do because, yeah, it was good enough to beat Texas, but we don't know what he could really do. I mean, he did throw an interception in that game against Texas as well. So I think Notre Dame's got to get home. The pass rush has to get home to Gunnar Stockton, cause some duress, make him make some mistakes in the pocket. We really don't know what to expect from him. So if you take the confidence away from Gunnar Stockton, who's going to be having his first college football career start, I think that's where Notre Dame can have a lot of success and possibly win this game. Force him to make mistakes and throw interceptions in tight coverage. Now, for Georgia's sake, they got to stop the run. Now, Georgia, over the years, have had some dominant defenses that we've seen in college football history. Kirby Smart is a defensive mastermind. But Notre Dame is averaging 222 rushing yards per game. That is going to be a tough task to ask for Georgia to stop the run. So they got to be able to stop the run, and if they stop the run, they could possibly put the ball in the hands of Riley Leonard, and possibly that stops and derails the game plan that Notre Dame might have of controlling the pace of the game offensively, running the ball and controlling the clock. So I think if Georgia could do that on the defensive side of the ball, the front seven loads up and stops the run as much as they can, as much as possible, limit the big-time runs, I think they could have a good chance of winning this game. Now, this is where coaching matters in football. Yes, you can have the 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, but this is where coaching matters, and I think Georgia has to execute coaching-wise. Kirby Smart is a 2-time national champion. back-to-back champion, went undefeated for 2 years in college football, and had some success winning some national titles as defensive coordinator under Nick Saban's learning tree in Alabama on that coaching staff. So Kirby Smart is no idiot to these big-time moments and these clutch situations that he's going to have to put his players in the rest to go out there and perform and when it matters most. So I think he's going to have the coaching staff is going to have Georgia well prepared for this game. They've had 3 weeks to prepare for this game. And if you guys want my honest opinion, I think truthfully they had to prepare for the winner of Notre Dame or Indiana. I think all along they were planning for Notre Dame to win that game. So they had 3 weeks to prepare for them. And they got to make sure they stay focused on all three phases of the ball. Offense, especially with their backup in Gunnar Stockton. Defense, the defense has to do their job. They're not as strong as the units of what they were the last few years with a lot of talent going to the NFL, but they got to do their job. And then special teams, you got to capitalize on the special team moments. Punting, kicking, everything's got to be going and according to plan against Notre Dame. So, with that being said, this is a really tough choice, but I'm gonna go with Georgia to win this game against Notre Dame. I think this will be a nail biter, but I just believe Kirby Smart is gonna have this team fired up and ready to go out there and play. Even though they're gonna have Gunnar Stockton, their backup quarterback, at the helm, I think this Georgia team is gonna do enough. And I think Kirby Smart in the defense, they've had 3 weeks to prepare for this game. And I think all along, like I just said, they were preparing for Notre Dame rather than Indiana. So I think they're going to be prepared to stop the run, limit the big-time runs and the big-time plays that they can run. Notre Dame can run as much as possible. This is a team that averages 222 to 24 rushing yards in a game. So I think if they can limit them running the football for Notre Dame not to control the pace on the clock or control the game with the clock management as much as possible, I think Georgia has a good game. And I believe that Gunnar Stockton is going to perform pretty decent in his first career start. I mean, did he play the best in the second half against Texas in that game? No. But I think he's going to capitalize on this moment. And I think he's going to play conservative. I think Georgia's going to also lean on the running game as well. And I think if this game goes down to the final possessions, I just trust Kirby Smart and his roster more because Kirby Smart, two-time national champion, has definitely been to the dance before, has a lot of playoff success. I think he's going to have this team prepared to go out there and win a nail biter against Notre Dame. And they proved they could win several nail biters in the season this year. So those are my college football second round predictions. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. It's your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.